Welcome, everyone, to the next section of today the price of success, money and mental health in the adult industry. So thank you, Austin and Austin. Fun to have two Austins as our panelists. We should have one more, Kylie Marco, joining us. So hopefully they're able to hop on here. Awesome. Hi, Kylie. Good to see you. So wonderful. We have our three panelists for today. And how we're going to start this out is I really want to give an opportunity for each of our panelists to just briefly introduce yourself and your work and answer one question to start us off is, why are you joining us today to discuss money and mental health in the adult industry? So my name is Dr. Tess Kilwine. I am a therapist with Pineapple Support. I love doing panels and webinars and just, facilitating engaging conversations. So let's get started. And Austin Fiasco, we'll start with you. Introduce yourself, your work, and why you're here for this topic specifically.
It's going to be confusing with two Austins here.
We'll
My
do
name
our
is
best.
Austin. Yeah, there we go. My name is Austin Fiasconi. I'm currently the chief business officer for a number of adult companies. You probably know some of them, like kink.com is one of our brands. MrSkin.com is one of our brands. And then sort of everything under those umbrellas. I've been in the adult industry for over a decade now in various business roles. I've never been in front of the camera, so a little bit of a different perspective here. It's just like running any other business. I got into it sort of by happenstance, come from a startup background and met some people and just thought this was a good opportunity. I was a lot younger then and said this would be a 2 to 3 year stop for me. And over a decade later, I'm still here. So it just happens like that, I guess.
Awesome. We're glad to have you in that perspective, specifically, Austin. Kylie, let's go with you next. What are you doing here?
Hi, Tess. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Kylie Marco, and I am a woman in sex tech. And I work with a lot of different creators. Now, I'm not a creator myself, but I've always championed the experiences and I've kind of related with a lot of the experiences of different creators and performers. And that is why I've become like a community manager and basically a spokesperson for them, but from a brand's point of view, from sex tech brand's point of view. And currently, I am working for Kiro. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. I haven't been here as long as Austin has. I've only been in the adult industry for about 5 years. But yeah, I am loving it so far. I don't see myself quitting anytime soon, like the industry. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Glad to have you here, Kylie. In four E's, I think I'm going to go Austin F and Austin P moving forward. So, Austin P, go ahead and take us home and tell us a little bit about what you're doing here.
Hi, thank you. But you can also call me Andrew if that makes things easier,
Oh,
it's like my second name. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure. I'm Andrew, also known as Austin Paz. I'm a former physician. I graduated here in Colombia. I'm also an LGBTQ activist, and I'm former content creator since 3 years ago, especially for different platforms and porn studios. So I was invited probably to give my personal experience from direct hand.
awesome. Thanks for being here, Andrew. We're gonna do this and kind of bounce around. This often flows really cool between the panelists, so feel free to jump in at any point. I'll facilitate a little bit by asking the questions, calling on different folks, but I want to make sure everyone is heard when they feel like they have something. For those here as participants, there is a Q&A function. So you can click on that Q&A function, ask a question there, and then I'll do my best to kind of bounce back between some questions that I have and some questions from the panelists or that are posed to the panelists. So let's start with talking about feast or famine survival that is ever present in the adult industry. So what helps you and maybe the people that you work with ride the emotional waves of what sometimes is unpredictable income, especially when you don't know, maybe when your next big opportunity is coming. So let's start with Kylie on this one. Talk about that feast or famine survival and how you and the people you work with ride those waves.
So I often hear a lot of stories from different creators about all this specifically. And being working at Kiro, like we always introduce technologies and tools that will help creators and performers like increase their income. And being a community manager, they always like talk to me about, hey, like I am down with this. This is not a good month for me. And actually, before going in the industry, I was working as a freelance fashion designer, so I kind of know how it is, like having 1 month good income, the next month, like it's so unstable. And what I always tell them is that, like, you know, you have to always like be grounded. It's okay to have those negative thoughts, to visit those negative thoughts, acknowledge them. But also, if you have to do it, you also have to acknowledge the positive thoughts, like what could happen tomorrow, which could be better than what it is today. So I always try to find that balance with them. And I always try to also do that with myself. Like I'm learning to do that with myself as well. This industry, especially like being a performer and being a creator, it takes a toll on you, like thinking about like tomorrow and thinking about the future and thinking about like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like watching the watching Mia and Nate earlier, I was also thinking about like, oh my God, like I need to have this much money in the future. So yeah, it takes a toll. And yeah, I just try to stay grounded. I work with the people that I work with, the performers that I work with, I try to tell them, stay grounded, visit the positive thoughts, because you never know what could happen.
I love that. Thanks so much, Kylie. It is so tempting to just be thinking about, what's next? Do I need to be doing more? What could be coming down the pipeline, that we forget to recognize what might be going well in the moment and celebrate those small wins. So awesome. Austin, Andrew, anything you would add? I see, Andrew, anything to add about that feast and famine?
Yes, definitely. I just want to like encourage the idea that we, unlike other professions, we don't have a 9 to 5 schedule. We are literally working all the time. Probably we are like managing our own time and getting our own income. So it's difficult sometimes to control that, because unlike other professions, we don't have a fixed salary. Sometimes it can be high, sometimes it can be down, as you guys have been expressing, and it can be stressful for so many people. So that's why it's so important to sometimes create some strategies that can help us to overcome those situations. And for a personal experience, I could recommend my friends try to first of all, don't embrace only money as the way to measure your success, because yes, money is a really important thing, but first of all, it's not everything. And second of all, you have to understand that money comes and go, but your life is still the most important thing. So it's really important in this feast and famine cycles to like slow down a little bit and start thinking about what are you doing so you can not only improve your earnings but also try to control them. So it's really important to try to create a budget that can help you with your economical and order organization during the time when you're having a good time and a bad time. So try to fix a baseline of your earnings and also a baseline or your spending, so you can try to organize yourself when you have a good and a bad time. And especially if it's really good when you're having a really good time to save money. It's good when you can use these excellent times to save a little bit of money and try to pay yourself a salary, like a fixed rate. Sometimes you can have months where you can make thousands of dollars, and sometimes you can have months where you can have just hundreds of dollars. So if you have like really good times, save money and pay yourself a fixed rate that can help you overcome every month when you're having good and bad times. So in this way, you don't have to stress so much when you have good and bad times.
Thanks so much, Andrew, for sharing some specific strategies on how we might stay grounded and do these things, especially when things are going well or not. That was actually a question in the Q&A, so you answered it. Perfect timing. Austin, anything that you would like to add to that
Yeah,
conversation?
I think there's a saying, I live my life, and I preach it at our company too, and it's a biblical quote, not that I'm religious, but that this too shall pass. And I think it's really important when times are good. Like for us on the business side of the industry, the pandemic was really good to us. Like we've never seen revenues that high. But what I really stressed during that time is, okay, it's good now, but let's be planning for when times aren't good right now. And that way, when you're in times that are bad, you can, one, remember when times are good, and you're better prepared for it. And I think Andrew gave some really good advice there, that when times are good, we call it a war chest. You should start building up an emergency fund or a war chest for when times aren't good, so that if you can still capitalize on opportunities. I think I don't know who in our audience are creators, but I know for a fact that within 2 years being in the top 1% of OnlyFans is a fraction of what it used to be, right? And so if you didn't plan for when times are really good, you're now really feeling that today. Versus if you had been planning for that, if you recognize that, yes, circumstantially, this is a really good time and you're not planning your next step, you're going to be finding yourself in a really, really tough situation. So always plan ahead, regardless of if you're in a good time or a bad time, plan for whatever comes next.
Love that discussion about how do we plan for what is super unpredictable sometimes in this industry. What we also find is that, a lot of adult performers can really tie themselves to their earnings, right? Your self-worth is tied to what you earn. So it's important to remember that you are not your earnings. When work slows down or that income drops, like you're talking about, how do you or the people you work with avoid tying that self-worth to your bank account? And we're going to go backwards. Austin, we're going to start with you. What kind of guidance might you provide? I know you work with people. How would you
Yeah,
provide that?
that's tough for me. My entire role here is the money person for all of our companies. So my entire livelihood is tied to how the company does, and that trickles down. And it's a big burden to bear. I think, especially in the adult industry, and I got advice when I started very young. I won't say from who, but from a performer that said, we're selling a fantasy. The only thing that's real about this is when you shut your computer and what your life is. And I think being able to differentiate you as either a businessman or a content creator or a performer or whatever you might be doing in this industry from your personal life is really important, right? Like if you're a cam model or an OnlyFans model, that persona you're projecting is not necessarily the persona when you're sitting on the couch in your PJs with your dog. And in the same way that the way that I deal with some of my staff, and I think there are a couple people who have seen me in meetings before, versus me outside of the industry are two very different people. And I think it's important to be able to track your wins as a human being outside of just your money or a subscriber count or the P&L this month. Like you might have a win. Like for me, it's, did I get to the gym 5 times this week? Did I make sure I walked my dog twice today? Did I eat healthy? Did I eat like shit? Did I go see somebody? Track your wins separate of what is necessarily just in you as a business person or a creator or as whatever you might be in this industry.
Awesome. Thanks, Austin. Andrew, we'll go to you next, especially having experience as a content creator. How do you avoid tying your self-worth to your bank account?
Well, this is really interesting because I mean, yeah, sometimes um, it is difficult because in the adult industry, this is just not about money; it's about feedback. So when you have spikes in tips, sales broken, you can feel yourself as you're being desired. When you're having a really bad time, is you can feel rejected from people, for community, and sometimes it hits yourself because it can create a kind of a dysmorphia that really affects you badly. So that's why it's so important that you have to understand that this is not about personal value. I mean, one thing's economic, and you have to separate two things because one thing is really important. Monetary performance is just money. It's critical when your work, where appearance, popularity, and desirability are monetized, to understand that you are still a human being. You're a person, and even if you are giving a lot of yourself, you have to keep true to yourself, because even if you're showing, you are still you. You own yourself. You're the most important thing for you. And yes, you're just sharing a part of yourself. You are not giving everything. So that's the most important thing. You're just trying to express yourself, to be authentic, and that's the most important thing. If money is good, amazing. If it's not, that's okay, because sometimes you can be. Some people like it, some people don't. And in Spanish, we have this funny thing that we say, yo no soy monedita de oro para gustarle a todo el mundo. I'm not a golden coin to be loved for everybody. I'm a person, I'm a human being, and that's beautiful.
I love that quote. Thanks for sharing that, Andrew. Kylie, we'll have you take us home here.
So I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of performers and creators, and a lot of them, well, most of them are actually cam models. And just like what Austin said earlier, this is a persona that we have. Um, I think the common thing that I hear hearing all those stories, and it doesn't just apply to creators and cam models, it applies to basically everybody. We don't have to get tied to like money as like our worth. And it's good to have a digital detox in those times to completely take ourselves out of that situation and out of that mentality. Because like overall, we have to give back to ourselves, not to the persona we're projecting online and to the work that we're doing. We have to give back to like our authentic selves, like the person within. So even finding little ways to make yourself happy, like going for a walk or, putting on makeup and dancing by yourself in your room, like that doesn't really cost much. So we always have to find time to do that, those little things that make us happy, no matter what they are, whether it's like getting all dolled up or like walking or petting your dog, spending time with family, spending time with friends. Those things doesn't need to cost much, and like it's a good way to take ourselves out of that like anxiety and out of that mental burden that we put ourselves in. And yes, it's always good to plan and everything, but there are ways for us not to drown in all those like thoughts and anxieties. So I think that's a really good way to take ourselves out of that mentality.
Thanks, Kylie. I love the direction that you took that. So I'm actually going to give the other two an opportunity to add. But really, what you're describing is like the industry monetizes intimacy. So it's really important to think about like how do you set limits when emotional labor becomes part of the job? How do you recharge when it starts to feel like it's too much? So Andrew, I saw your hand up. If you had something else, that's great. But anything you would add to like how do you recharge in this place of the job?
I'm sorry. It's because this topic is really passionate for me, and I'm super happy. So I want to share a lot. So thank you again for this space. I recharge. This is because this is something that really happened to me. Sometimes you become a working machine, and you have to understand that you're a human person, and it's good that you give yourself spaces, either way, with friends, with family, with your pets. Sometimes you have to understand that you deserve vacations because you made this your life a work time, and you have to understand that you not only live for this, you also have a life outside. So as Kylie was saying, you have to build an identity outside your work. You have to build your passions, your hobbies, more things that make you yourself, because you're a whole thing. You're not a porn actor, a content creator. You're more than that. So you have to nurture those things that also give you desires to live. And sometimes that are also a passion to work for. And I forgot to say something that it's really important about finding value, because we cannot find value only in money. We can also find value in so many other things in this industry as well that can help you overcome this complex. Because, for example, when you are interacting with your fans, when they nurture this love that you're sharing with them, when you are building great interactions, creating personal achievements, or also when you are working in this industry, you try to develop certain skills, either within social media, in editing, in social engagement. You can also understand that you're growing in this process. So that's also a thing you have to value, not only the money you're earning, but the skills and the learning you are getting on this industry. So that's the thing I wanted to add. Thank you.
That's awesome, Andrew, focusing on what is earning and growth outside of that financial territory, right? There's so many experiences and ways that we can grow that aren't directly tied to finances. Austin, anything you would add to that piece about how, intimacy is monetized? How do we recharge? How do we handle the emotional labor?
Yeah, no, I'm terrible at it. So I'm probably the last person to say this. I think for those who know me, I'm first meeting of the day is at 6 a.m. and I'll be at my computer till 9 p.m. So I don't do a very good job of that. And I certainly have a different role here. I think the perspectives that Austin and Kylie can give are much different than mine. Unlike myself, I do encourage my staff to take a lot of time. And again, burnout is really real. And if you burn yourself out, it's going to be hard to fulfill and fill your cup in other parts of your life, not only your job. But if that is a lot of your identity, it's going to be hard for you to have those normal relationships outside of what you do. And so making sure that you fill your cup and that you're fulfilled as a person in those other areas of your life is super important. Just not for me, apparently.
We always love the honesty. Like you're not alone in that. I know people really appreciate it. Awesome. Okay. So another thing that came to mind as you were all speaking is just this constant balance of hustle versus health, right? Like when do I hustle? When do I work? When do I take time to focus on my health? So let me ask you all, what signs tell you that you might be burning out? You might need to recharge and rebalance there. And what have you learned about pulling back before it's too late? So let's go, Andrew. Let's start with you here on what signs tell you might be burning out and like what have you learned about pulling back before it's too late, if you have learned those lessons.
I do. I have do. And well, there's so many. There's so many. There's physical and mental signs that can help you understand where you're totally burnt out. And it's really important to identify this step. I'm a perfectionist. So, for example, when I fell into the loop of like doing and redoing and trying to redo until something is perfect so I can release it, I understand that I'm just literally just burning myself and to a point that is not going to get me no that is going to get me nowhere because as someone really important to me told me, please don't make perfection forbid you to reach something good. You have to understand that that is also a good way to show yourself because perfection doesn't exist. And even if you want to reach something perfect, it's probably never going to happen. And it's going to lead you just to burn yourself to death and no one is going to get done. Also, it's really important to understand when you're extremely tired, when you don't feel motivated to work, when you want to oversleep over the days because you feel, no, I'm super tired. I should try to just not work today because I don't feel motivated. But this thing is not just one day, but over 2 days, probably going over the week. Is that you have to understand, okay, this is a red flag because my body is demanding me rest because of something I've been doing for so many times. So it's also a strategic way to understand that, yes, the rest is needed, but I have to give a strategic rest because if I'm working and resting and working and resting, but I'm not achieving any work and over resting is because what I'm doing, the work I'm making, is just forcing my body to feel so tired that I'm not going to get anything done. So it's in that point when I say, stop everything what I'm doing, all the work and all the resting I'm making, because the resting I'm making is not being efficient. Why is not being efficient? Probably because even when I'm resting, I'm thinking that I have to get something done, or probably because I have to overthink on the next week what I'm going to do, and that's not resting at all. Resting means that everything has to stop, and your mind, and you have to give your mind and your body a total peaceful place so they can charge to do and keep going, but not now, later.
Thank you for sharing that. I can just see the passion when you're talking about the importance of doing this in your life. Awesome. Kylie, let's loop over to you. Anything you would add to that discussion?
Yeah, like leading up to that burnout, we get like a lot of the performers and creators, like I noticed that they get addicted to like the work, the validation, essentially, the money, like all of that. And that's what kind of triggers the overworking because like they get addicted to that dopamine that they're getting. And one thing that's a major sign of burnout, of like that burnout like already creeping in, is that like they get they get triggered so easily and they get so emotional. um I worked closely with this cam model, and essentially like she was like opening up to me because like we're also friends. She was like saying that um she has a persona and it's all very performative, but that burnout, like she it hinders her from like performing, and performing in front of like, well, essentially performing, but like, you know, like trying to be connecting with her audience. And she's finding it hard to do that already because of that burnout. And that's when she started to realize that it's all coming down. And that's when I told her that, like, okay, like, you know, when you start to feel a hint of this, like you already know you have to like take a digital detox, like stop, take a moment, come back to yourself, because you cannot pour onto others' cups if you don't have anything in yours. So you have to make sure, especially being a performer, especially being a creator, you have to make sure that you always have something in your cup in order to be able to like pour into others. Because essentially, when you are talking with people, when you're talking with your fans, that is you're also pouring into their cups. So if you don't have anything in yours, like then it's going to be very hard to do that, which makes income very hard and to have. So it all kind of piles up together. So yeah, this is very important.
Thanks, Kylie. I love that analogy. I think it's so relevant to the discussion here. Austin, I'm going to loop to you, and then we're going to introduce a fourth panelist who's going to share a little bit about themselves and maybe respond to this question as well. So Austin, let's go to you first, and then I'm excited to introduce Shar in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think burnout is the enemy of anybody who's trying to accomplish something, right? I'm fortunate enough that I just am the person who will dig deeper and figure it out. But especially with our staff, I mean, it's super important that you don't burn out your staff, because then just hiring and replacing somebody is very difficult. And so it's really important for us to do check-ins with our staff. If I start to see somebody's velocity at the company go down, it's a quick way to check in with them and say, hey, is everything okay? Do you need some time off? We have a pretty generous PTO schedule here, but even if somebody needed a day, we're always willing to accommodate. And I think it's a balance, right? I think you have to be able to face some adversity. And I think I'm probably one of the people here that would be different in that regard. I think tough times make tough people. And I think there are moments where you've got to rise to the occasion just as much as there's moments where you need to shut your computer and go take a nap. And you've got to be the person, it's different for everybody. I think you have to know yourself really well and set yourself up for success in those situations.
Love that. Thanks, Austin. Shar, go ahead and introduce yourself. There might be some new people in this section than from the last one, and then feel free to jump in at any point of the conversation that resonated with you. I believe you're muted.
There we go. You've got me now. So I had to butt in. I do apologize, but I had to get involved in this part. I'm seeing comments here from women that are over 40, and I've got to put my hand up to that. I'm 42. I'm perimenopausal. I'm having the hot flushes. I'm having the irritability. So when it comes to dealing with these people online and you're facing burnout, like I've had exhaustion, like at really bad points. Like I've been hospitalized with exhaustion. I've been doing this for 25 years. I never learned my lesson. I'm not going to lie to you, I don't. I now have a calendar which is on my fridge, and I have little notes on there every day to remind myself to rest and take a break. I understand that it can be very, very hard also when you're trying to meet a certain target as well, because we have bills to pay, we have rent to pay. I totally, totally get it. So I've developed certain techniques that I do, and I understand it's not for everyone, but when I'm approaching burnout and irritability, I have something called sleep cam. Which you guys are going to think is crazy, but I've introduced it on my OnlyFans and some of my platforms, and I will have a little buzzer where if they tip, it goes ping and they can wake me up. I'm sleeping and I'm going to keep on sleeping until it bings and bings and bings and I'm making money. So I do that. Another thing that I do is I do a lot of dom stuff. So I'm known as a dommy mummy, which is a really good thing. MILF is a very big thing in the industry, as most people may know. And when I'm irritable, the naughty boys love it. So I get to take my aggression out on some of these little boys that are normally 50 or 60-year-old men, if I'm honest. And it helps. It really, really does help. I do still take the rest, of course, and it is very important, but I just want people to know that they're not alone with it. When you hit a certain age in particular as well, these are the things that we need to implement. We're not 18, 19 and full of energy anymore. We need to rest, we need to recover, and we need to find new ideas of resting and also find an outlet. And I love it. I tell a lot of my fans to go and sit in the corner and you're a bad boy, and I really lay into them, but they're paying me for that as well. So I'm still hitting my target and I'm still getting paid, and yeah, I'm getting a little bit of aggression out, so it helps their mental health as well.
Thanks so much for jumping in. I think you're speaking to an audience that is really seeking and craving that kind of perspective. So we're glad that you're here. The next question I want to pop over to the Q&A, which I think is a pretty important discussion that's happening. Sometimes in the industry, money is so tight, it can feel scary. Maybe especially if you're early in your career, you've been experiencing famine for a while. Maybe you're short on bills or rent or not able to afford just basic necessities like food or meds. Like, how do you keep a sexy mood with clients against that panic of, making as much as you can before deadlines? So, what do you do when you're still burnt out but need to keep working because the bills are due? How do you balance that maybe urgency that comes up with so many people in this industry? And Austin, let's start with you, and then we'll kind of loop back around through everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to just try to stay calm, regardless of what storm is around you. Somebody's gotta, steer the boat. And you're the captain of your own life. It can't be easy. I mean, I've faced plenty of adversity and still had to show up to work or show up to a meeting, or, I think some people here saw me in January when I was going through some serious life struggles outside of work and still had to go to AVN and XBiz and take those meetings and see people. And I think it's important. It goes back to that separation of life. And siloing out and tuning out all the noise and focusing on what you need to focus on. It's obviously easier said than done, but to a certain extent, you can either let the stress and everything else consume you, or you can just try to tone it out and focus on what you need to do. And I think there's definitely times that money or your personal life or whatever it might be is getting hard. I view those as opportunities to get through the situation and see the other side. Even if there's a storm, there's a lighthouse in the distance that says you're close to getting through it, and just being able to keep pushing for that goal is really important. If you can just kind of, again, keep moving forward, even if it doesn't feel better today, it's going to feel better eventually.
Awesome. Really great insight. Thanks for sharing. Andrew, do you want to jump in from there?
Yeah, what Austin just said is really important. Like you can make two things. You can just give up or take all that energy you're getting for the stress and focusing into trying to do something. And it cannot be easy. That's why it's also really important to surround yourself for a helping circle, like family, friends that can help you supporting when you're having a difficult time. Also seek for professional help, like Pineapple Support, because they can give you the tools so you can focus all this energy trying to do something. But also in strategy that I like to do, it's planning is really good and really important because it can help you, like, not to create something out of the stress, but also try to organize some ideas that can help you create something in advance that maybe can create some revenue and income in the future, but you already have it. You already have it, had it settled. And as a personal touch, I find this really funny and entertaining to do when I'm doing porn. That's what I started doing it. So it's like I'm giving a little bit of myself and trying to have fun as well. I'm doing. It's like, if I'm a whore, I'm going to be good at it and do it for money. So it's like sharing that personal touch on what I'm doing gives me happiness. So that's what also helps me keep going when I know money can be stressful, but at the end, I'm trying to enjoy the process.
Thanks for that perspective, Andrew. Kylie.
Yeah, so in those moments of panic, because money is tight, I love what Andrew said about, like, going to your family, going to your friends, coming to them for help. What I want to add to that is that before that, you have to make a list. Make a list of everything you're good at, no matter how small. We have to acknowledge these. We have to celebrate these, and also, above all, we have to find a way to monetize those, like your strengths. So if you're good at something, there is somebody that could help you to get to what you're going through, like, or get to that goal of, like, money goal that you have. So it's always good to make that list. Sometimes it really helps to, like, write it down, and, like, you can start your planning from there. Okay, what can we do to make this become an income? Like, what can we do to, like, do this and this? Like, there has to be something there, and having the support of your friends, your family, and of course Pineapple support, you will definitely get through it. Like, you just have to know your resources and your strength.
Awesome. And we'll wrap up with Shar. Anything you want to add to this discussion?
I can totally understand when it's really hard when everyone thinks about their bills and their priorities and everything. And I think it's always good just to basically just have a load of backup plans. Just like what I said before, really. When you're irritable, I do the dummy stuff. And when I'm tired, I'll put a sleep cam on. But I know that it's not something which is easy. And I do believe in having therapy and getting help. And Pineapple's been amazing support with that. Sometimes it helps to just take a breath, refresh, and think outside the box a bit. And I think having someone else's input really, really does help, because when you get to that certain point, you panic as well because you think my rent's due and you're counting down the days. And when you panic, I believe fans can also sense desperation. It doesn't work. You need to step back a bit. You need to get some outside help. You need to take a breath and then just put yourself back in it again. You'll find that you can think clearer and you can focus a lot better.
And I heard this theme throughout a lot of the responses of just planning ahead, right? For when these times are going to happen. Before we move on to the next question, does anyone have a specific example of maybe when they've had to plan ahead in their career? And not everyone has to answer this, but if you have a specific example to share with the audience, go ahead and put your hand up or just go ahead and speak. Kylie, I think, does that mean you're ready?
Okay. Yes, I got an advice that is like really helpful. Not just for me, but also I also tell this to the creators and performers that I work with. Some of them start off really young, so they don't know, and we don't always get the financial education or the financial knowledge that we are all supposed to have. So an advice that a friend told me is to always create a budget, yes, but the money that you make, you have to separate into three different parts. One for your bills, one for savings, and one for the everyday expenses. So it's a good starting off point when it comes to planning ahead, and especially when it comes to budgeting. So in those good days, you can already set aside, and then you can set aside more, and then you can set aside like maybe like set aside four parts, and then you add something else. So I think this helps a lot. And it's a good jumping off point when it comes to like, okay, how do I manage this? Just so you don't get overwhelmed that you have a lot of money now and then the next month you don't have. So we always need to like, yeah, plan ahead and save, even no matter how little. And you can always like add to that.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else have a specific example on that planning ahead? Andrew, looks
Uh,
like.
yeah, I just want to give two quick examples. For example, I always try to plan ahead like my next 6 months of what I'm going to do uh, with a budget. As Kylie said, what I try to do is like I just have this specific amount of money that I'm going to invest on my projects without getting out of money. Like I have my savings, but I also take a little bit part of this money that I'm going to use to promote my projects. Either way, because I want to create some films for like a special Halloween, Christmas, or because I'm also going to plan a business trip when I'm going to meet some content creators or maybe some clients or maybe have some meetings. So that planning helps me to project myself in the future. But I also want to talk when I started with nothing. Like when I just fly my first time to Europe with probably $50 in my bank account, I say like, okay, let's take this chance. And what I did back then is like, my goal is going to try to make as much money as possible so I can start doing this first thing that I told you, like try to work as much as I can so I can try to get a background money and then a specialized money so I can start working. But it didn't happen out of the blue. It happened with what Kylie says. I said, like, I'm going to this trip to Europe, but I have these talents, these list of talents that how I'm going to monetize this. Because some people can say, but what can make you sure that you're going to make money out of it? Darling, nothing is sure. But what it's going to be sure is that if you have some talents, something that you can give and you're willing to work for them and you're going to put your effort, something is going to come into return. But and most importantly, I did it. And was a huge mistake. Don't overwork. I say it because it was my reality back then when I didn't have anything. But Now that fortunately I was able to grow something, I see the danger on overworking, trying to make as much money as possible. You cannot do that forever. Maybe we can do it when we are young, starting, we're wild, but you have to understand that money is important, but wellness is more important always. And always remember, it's good to have money, but it's good to have wellness. Plan ahead. It helps you to overcome every challenge.
Just first off, I think the answers that both Kylie and Andrew have given are fantastic. The one thing I would say is when you're planning, have a plan B, have a plan C. Not always is the first thing that you say you're going to do going to work out. And we, from both the corporate and my personal life and the way that we sort of have structured our company is everyone sets goals, but they also set a reality of if we don't hit our goals, okay, then what? It's not like you're just getting, and we plan every 4 months. We do it 3 times a year. And what we don't want to have happen is we get to the end of that 4 months and we've missed a goal either personally or professionally. And you go, okay, I don't know what the hell just happened. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? That's a really deflating feeling if you're doing that much planning in advance to get to the end of that cycle and be left holding nothing. So make sure you have, okay, if this works, great. If it doesn't work, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Have a plan B, have a plan C. The other thing is do check-ins too. Like, I think it's important. I use this lighthouse analogy. You're swimming in the middle of the ocean or you're on a boat. It's dark, it's raining, you can't see anything. It's important to pick your head up and reorient to where you want to go. And you might get drifted totally off course. Things happen in life where like today everything's good, tomorrow it's not. Make sure that you're doing constant check-ins with yourself to make sure like you're still on track for where you want to go. And is that still where you want to be going? You know what I mean? Like if something could change tomorrow, let's say OnlyFans loses their banking, God forbid, or what happened with Pornhub back in 2021. That was a massive hit for us as a company. We had a lot of revenue coming from the Pornhub partner program that went away overnight. And luckily, we were in a position where we had at least some contingency plans to change. I know companies that went out of business because that happened overnight and they weren't equipped for it. It was a good, solid business strategy at the time. It went away. So I think it's really important to plan, but have a fallback. So you're also not defeating yourself at that point. Just because you haven't hit your goal, that's the point of a goal, is it should be hard to hit. If you can do it in your sleep, it's not really a goal to be setting for yourself. So make sure you're really pushing yourself for it. And if you don't get there, make sure you understand why and understand what comes next. So you're not feeling this immense weight and pressure of, I can't believe I failed. I fail all the time. I encourage failure because it means that you're trying something. And I think it's important to understand that process.
Awesome. Thanks for that. We are going to take our last Q&A question just based on timing. And this will be, again, for everyone who wants to respond. And then I have one, maybe two, if we can get there, wrap up questions for us. So and I think this has been unanswered a little bit, so feel free to add if you have it, but as it relates to spreading yourself thin across platforms, often we want to take in and say yes to all the opportunities we possibly have, but do you have any recommendations when it comes to balancing, maybe these financial desires and opportunities with not spreading yourself too thin across different opportunities and platforms?
Yeah, I'll jump into it. I think that's a great question. And there's so much happening in the adult industry right now. I think there's a lot of people that are really scared about age verification. I view it as an opportunity, but regardless of that, I think it's important to prioritize where you're spending your time. And everybody has a different metric for what that looks like. I think the most basic one is revenue, but there's also potential out of something that's happening. And I think, really sitting down, being honest with yourself, using resources that you might have, talking to other creators. There are a lot of great forums. I know there's a ton of great like WhatsApp and Telegram groups you can all probably bounce stuff off of, but really setting like, okay, I get 90% of my revenue from here. Well, that probably deserves a pretty good amount of your time and what you're doing then, but not ignoring everything else and sitting and being realistic about it. I think the enemy of spreading yourself thin is when you try to do too much because you think you have to. And I think really setting goals of, okay, if I make most of my money on this cam platform or this fan platform, that needs to take a large part of my time. But then with the remaining time that I have, where am I going to prioritize spending that? Where do I see either high opportunity or things that are even just self-fulfilling and self-rewarding? And sometimes those things are just as important to do and spend time doing as things that are driving revenue. There's different ways that you can fill your cup up. And I think really being honest and again, doing those check-ins, planning, if you say this is my goal, am I doing all the activities that are setting myself up for success or to get as close to that goal as possible? Super important.
Go ahead, Andrew. I see you're ready. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I just want to say thank you because all what we are saying is super inspirational. So thank you because I'm able to organize my ideas with all you guys are saying. I love you. Um, really important. That you can do everything. It's important to understand that you can do anything, but you can do everything. It's really important to understand that, and you have to hold as much as you can without collapsing. You can do a lot of things, but you can do everything, and it's going to overcome overwhelming if you try to do everything. As Austin is saying, there's so many things we can do in the adult industry right now that it's impossible to do all the things, because there's porn creation, OnlyFans content creator, there's social media, there's like transmissions, there is sex work, there are different kind of sex works, it's just dating, dominatrix, there's also like there's so many things we can do right now as sex workers, and it's impossible to achieve all of those things. So first of all, choose what you want to do. And how do you choose that? What do you want to do? What do you feel comfortable doing? What is going to make you happy to it? Of course, and what's going to give you good money. You can do a lot of things, but think, what is the things that are you going to do that is going to give you the most money, if you are thinking about, without sacrificing your wellness? Remember, wellness is super important. So choose a couple of things that you're going to start working in, and organize with those things. Try to get the maximum potential out of those things, working, organizing yourself. At certain point is going to overcome difficult, because everything is going to, you can reach different max points with every different thing, but try to do your best. It's not about being the best, but do your best in everything you're trying to do. And also, don't work alone. It's impossible to do everything on your own. So at the beginning, yes, you have to do it alone, or you're filming or your editions. But as you are earning money, invest money. Try to pay an editor guy to help you with editions. Pay a camera guy that can help you with the filming. Pay a social media guy that is going to help you organizing the social media, scheduling the post, or also giving you ideas. Create a team that is going to help you holding more things together, because again, you can do a lot of things, but you can do everything alone. And also try to use new tools that are going to come and help you. For example, artificial intelligence right now have come to our ways of content creators to be really useful in so many ways, that they're going to give you ideas of things that you can do. They can also give you tips to organize your time. So again, there's so many things that we can do, and it's to start to overcome overwhelming. So what is the most important advice that I'm going to give to you? Take a break, take a second, plan ahead. Is really important, because if you don't plan, if you don't give yourself the opportunity to take a break and plan what you're going to do, you're going to overcome with so many different things at the same time, and you're going to collapse. So take a break, plan, stick to the plan for a fixed time, probably 4-6 weeks, and then ask questions. What I'm doing, and then, am I doing it right? Should I move forward? Should I try to change? Should I try to organize this thing? But give yourself a specific periods of time so you can work on where you do it, and then try probably something new. That's my advice.
Thank you. I love to see the hands up. We're just going to go down the line in order that I have. So brief answers to this one, and then I will pose our final question to wrap up. So Austin, you go first.
Just really quickly, I agree with everything. My mom has a saying, and I'm going to shout her out for a minute, that you can do everything you want in life, you just can't do it all at once. And I think prioritizing that is important. And I think what Andrew just said is spot on. If you're not delegating, if you're not trying to use other resources that are out there to help you, AI is awesome. But even then, just like leaning on friends, leaning on other people that have done this before, asking questions, I think this community it's really that. The adult industry is a community. You're never going to find anything like this, where even though we're all like sort of competing with each other for the same customer, we all want to see each other succeed. If that person's spending money on you, they're definitely going to spend it on somebody else. And being able to use that shared knowledge, shared resources is super important. I highly recommend people do that.
Wonderful. Char, let's jump to you.
Sure. I just really want to touch on the marketing aspect of what was actually asked and spreading yourself so thin when it comes to being on every social media platform. Like, I think it was KJ, you were saying that you've only just got yourself on X. Well, I've been on X now for years. My traction on there, it's great, but does it make me any revenue? No. So I've only put like 10% aside for that, for example. So I think it's all about seeing what works for you and then prioritizing your time and also your quality. So it's not just about like oversaturating every single social platform, trying to get on every single one. Find out what works for you and home into that one thing. Like for me, Reels, they're working amazingly on Instagram right now. We have a new thing on there, which is the trial Reels. If you go on there right now, as a little tip for you guys, I have a couple of friends that are actually going viral. So what they're doing is they're doing test Reels. These test reels are actually hitting your non-followers. So your followers won't see them, but you want to get a new audience anyway. That's the whole idea. So if you basically just crash the algorithm, put out 10 test reels every single day, and then you post the one that's got the most views for everyone else to see. And it's an actual thing that's actually working right now and is helping people go viral. So that's something that's working for me. X isn't. Threads works for many other people. There's Blue Sky, there's going live on TikTok, there's loads of different things. But just like what Austin was saying, you know, content creators, you need to talk to each other. You need to be friends with each other. You need to help lift each other. Like, I don't gatekeep. If someone comes into my inbox and they say, what platform is working for you? I'll be like, girl, you need to get on this one. This is making me this much right now. That one's not doing good for me. So I'm going over to that one. What works for me may not work for you. But I do believe in just keeping up with what's going on, what is trending, the algorithms on every single social media platform. You need to keep up to date with it. ChatGPT will also help you with that. You can just type it in, see what's fresh, what's new, what's changed, and then you know where to home in your quality and your quality content. So I just wanted to put that one out there if that helps anyone.
Awesome. I love to hear these kind of novel ways that people are finding ways to navigate the industry. So thanks for sharing. Kylie, let's go to you.
So, when it comes to marketing as well, like I agree with everybody. But you definitely have to do a lot of research. Like what kind of persona you're putting out there, what are you comfortable doing? And besides that, there are different platforms now, not just OnlyFans, and some of these platforms have specialized stuff. If you are doing fetish stuff, maybe this platform is better for you instead of this platform. Now, when it comes to like marketing, it also really, really depends. Just because TikTok is trending and a lot of people are on TikTok, maybe that's not for you because like you're not willing to do this is just not your vibe. Like dancing on TikTok is just not your vibe. And that's okay. And you can do different strategies on different platforms um, in order to create those fans into paying subscribers. So yes, I agree with Shar said. Talk to other creators. These creators must be similar to what you're doing or what you want to do. Talk to them, become friends with them, and ask them. But then overall, like you have to know your strengths and you also have to prioritize. Like just because everyone's on all platforms, yeah, I completely agree with like Andrew and Austin. Like you can do everything, but not all at once. Maybe it's good one step at a time, and try to really focus. So yeah, do a lot of research, befriend the people. It is a community, and all our inboxes are open.
Wonderful. This has gone so quickly. You are all so amazing, and we have such an engaged audience and very knowledgeable audience. So I apologize we can't get to everybody's questions in the Q&A, but we are going to wrap up with a final question for each of our panelists. So I like to wrap up with a little peer support and wisdom. What is one piece of advice or support that you would like to leave everyone else with on handling this emotional side of money and mental health? You've given such great advice, but one final lasting piece that you'd like to offer to our audience. And we'll start with Shar.
Oh, sorry. So I'd basically say that if you get a low day, remember your next high day is just around the corner. Don't get yourself down. Don't beat yourself up if you're having a low day. Just keep yourself preoccupied with something else. Utilize everything else in your personal life and yeah, I sorry, I think I've said quite a lot already. Yeah, it's just a hard industry. I know it is, and it is very tough on the mental health. And I know we all have bills to pay, but at the end of the day, you just got to look after yourself. And if you need it, obviously, what we're all here for, we're here to celebrate pineapple support. Get some help, get some therapy, and talk to somebody because it goes a very, very long way.
Thanks, Shar. Austin, one last piece of advice.
Yeah, echoing that, you're not alone. I think everybody goes through that. I think it's probably one of the biggest common things just in the world is stressing about money and your financial situation. I think the important thing is you're not alone there. There are amazing resources. Obviously, Pineapple Support is unbelievably amazing. I see a therapist every week. I think it's a great thing. Everybody should do that. I also think you should reach out to people too. It doesn't have to be a struggle you face on your own. And I think if everyone's going through it, everyone has a different way of dealing with it and asking those questions. Everyone's going to be willing to tell you because everyone's dealt with it. So don't feel like you're alone. Seek help. Ask questions, and yeah, you'll weather the storm. It'll be better tomorrow.
Thanks, Austin. Andrew, one last piece for the audience.
Just saying thank you for all your questions. The fact that we are just having more questions means everybody is super engaged. That's amazing. Remember, money is never just money, and it's not everything. It's unpredictable, and we are human beings. That's the most important thing we have to treasure. We have to love ourselves because we are our most important thing in the world. So take care of ourselves. Take support with Pineapple Support because it's a really important brand that helped us all. And yeah, don't forget some teams that we already make, like financially. Remember, guys, planning and preparation is really important for you to plan ahead because a fixed future can help us to lower anxiety levels. As everybody has said, don't forget, look for peers, for people to surround that can help you. And remember, always set boundaries. It's really important also in this industry.
Thank you. Kylie, final message for the audience.
I think pretty much they've said everything. I agree with everyone, with what everybody said, but just always remember and try to tell yourself that your value isn't and should never be dictated by how much money you make. Yeah, and like come to everybody, like there's always going to be someone out there willing to help you, whether it's mentally, financially. Pineapple Support is a great, great organization that provides all of these like help that you need. So yeah.
Thanks, Kylie. And thanks again to all of our panelists, Shar, Andrew, Austin, Kylie. Take an opportunity in the chat if you want to put anything about how people could maybe contact you, find out more about you, learn from you. Feel free to put any websites or handles in the chat. Thanks for the audience for being here for this whole hour that, again, I feel goes so quickly to talk about the price of success, money, and mental health in the adult industry. At this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Shar, the host for the day, and thanks for having me, everyone.
I just want to say a big thank you to everybody for showing up as well. Now, if you don't know, we do currently have a challenge going on with Pineapple Support. So please check it out. It is the Cream Pie Challenge. Please do it. Please share. Please donate. Please check out the website, pineapplesupport.org. And thank you all so much for being here and for turning up. If anyone's going to be at the Expos in Amsterdam, I'll be there along with a few others, I'm sure. Come over, reach out, say hi. I'm very friendly. Give me a hug. I don't mind. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And yeah, goodbye from me.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you, Pineapple Support, for making this important space available. And well, see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.